imagine that 2020 would be this bizarre. And of course, all of us have had our own experience and our own thoughts about the coronavirus. But everywhere you look tonight, it seems like this world's coming unglued at the hinges. I said this in the beginning of this thing, Brother Tim. I don't think things are falling apart. I think things are falling into place, is what I believe tonight. I believe one of these days soon, Jesus is coming again. This very chapter is preceded by chapter 3. And Paul starts that great chapter with these words that we need to know also that in the last days, perilous times, Paul said would come.
Yes, sir.
I believe tonight we're living in the last days of the church age. Let me just begin tonight by way of introduction by making this statement. Those individuals, hear me tonight, those people who experience God's very best for themselves, for their families, for their ministries are people who have the ability to rise above what life, what the enemy, what circumstances in general throw at them.
Right.
I'm not trying to be unkind tonight, but this is not an hour for the faint at heart. This is not an hour for the weak need. Listen, when life, my friend, throws its most difficult, its darkest, and its most discouraging times at you, that, my friend, is when you find out, that's when you discover what you really believe. Anybody can brag, anybody can be cocky, anybody can make a declaration, but it's when the tough times come, it's when the rain comes, it's when the storm clouds come, it's when you're in the valley, that's when you find out what you really believe. They asked President Lincoln one time about a particular cabinet member he had that folks thought was not a good fit for the president, and they thought he ought to fire him. And Lincoln, as he often did, answered their criticism with a little antidote. He said, "You know, boys," he said, "I've learned when you're crossing a river, it's good not to change horses." And the truth be known tonight, we're crossing a river, and you know what? We can argue till the eternity comes and eternity goes about what's right, what's wrong. But what I'd do if I was you tonight, I'd lock in, I'd get settled tonight, I'd figure out what I believe, and I'd stick with it until the trumpet sounds. It's not time to jump ship. It's not time to run away. It's time tonight to strap in. It's time tonight to put on your seatbelt and decide I'm going to be an old-time Christian in this dark hour.
Amen, brother.
Yes, good.
I'm trying to just be quick tonight, Brother Gray, get out of your way. Paul says three great things in our text tonight. He said, I fought a good fight.
That's good.
He didn't say it was peaceful, Brother Tim. He just said, I did it. He said, I finished my course. He didn't say it was painless. He just said he did it. He said, I kept the faith. He didn't say it was popular. He just said he did it.
That's right.
You know, I'm just going to be blunt tonight. Coronavirus is fleshing people out.
Yes, sir.
I'm not being ugly. I know there's been some legitimate things to be afraid of. Maybe you know someone who's lost their life. I'm not making light of that all tonight. But I thought we were people of faith.
Yes, sir.
I thought we believed that our lives were in God's hand. I thought we believed that all things work together for good. And I know I'm going to make a few enemies here tonight. But how come so many are operating in fear tonight instead of faith? Barna did a survey a few months ago, and here's what they said, Brother Gray. You maybe heard this. They said that 30% of Christians will never come back to church.
That's right. Yep. That's right, brother. Amen to that.
What?
3%.
What? Well, we're moving our membership. I'll tell you what I'd do during coronavirus. I wouldn't do nothing. I wouldn't change course in an unseasoned time. And listen, when things are not stable, that's not time to make foolish decisions.
Amen, preacher.
Can I just say it tonight? Living for God is not for the faint of heart.
That's right.
I just got to say this tonight, preacher. Paul did not say, I almost lost my faith. I'm so weary tonight hearing people talk about, well, I just don't know if I agree anymore. I just don't know if that was ever my conviction.
Well,
why don't you just admit tonight you lost your nerve, you got scared. Hey, listen, Paul said, I kept the faith.
That's right.
Paul was just telling us tonight, folks, he was a fighter. He had some fight in him. Can I ask tonight, is there anybody here tonight that still got some fight in you?
Yes, sir. Amen.
See, Paul's teaching us in this great story tonight, and I could go deep. I'm going to try to hurry tonight. Paul's teaching us that you have to listen, my friend. You have to work. You have to labor. You have to struggle. Listen, my friend, if you want to be an overcomer, you don't get some sprinkle dust on you. You got to make your mind up. You got to get settled in your soul. Jesus told us, you know the great promise. He said, in the world, you're going to have tribulation. He said, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. I'm asking tonight, where are the overcomers in this room tonight?
That's good. It's good.
Paul had to fight with his fears. He had to fight with his apprehensions. He had to fight with his adversaries. He had to fight with anxiety. He had to fight with doubt. He had to fight with difficulty. He had to fight the critics. He had to fight setbacks. He had to fight losses. He had to fight, listen, my friend, backbiters and betrayers. He even had to fight with himself.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. He did.
Paul's much like Moses in the 11th chapter of Hebrews, verse 27. It says this, that Moses forsook, listen, by faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king. Listen next. For he endured. That's what he said tonight in our text. Verse number 5, endure afflictions. Let me just jump into the message tonight. Let me point out three quick things. Number one, I want you to see something. Don't miss this. What are the first two words of verse 7? Would you say it with me out loud tonight, church? Don't read past them. What are they? I have.
Right.
Skip the next four words and read the next two words. What are they? I have. If you skip the next three words, what are the next two words? I have. The first thing I want to remind you tonight is Paul said, I have. Paul said, I have. So what do you mean, Brother Jenkins? I'm not going to go deep here tonight. But the last verse we read tonight, Paul said there's a crown. I titled my thought tonight, we got to bear down if we're going to win our crown. Yeah. Let me say that again. We got to bear down.
Yes, sir.
If we're going to win our crown.
Yes, sir. Amen.
Well, Tim, as best I can tell, there are 5 crowns mentioned in the New Testament that you and I can earn. I won't re-preach in any depth here tonight, but let me just mention them. The first crown he mentions in our text tonight is the crown of righteousness. That's what's called the looker's crown. Now, it doesn't mean that we stand all day long and look up at the eastern sky and wait for the trumpet to sound. The idea is that we live every single day, every hour of every day, living like Jesus could come tomorrow. He could come today. We're not wasting time. We're not playing games. We're living with our eye on the eastern sky. The looker's crown. Now, I'm not going to get ugly tonight, but there ain't a whole lot of people thinking about Jesus coming back. You know they're not. They're thinking about the ball game. They're thinking about their vacation. They're thinking about family coming over. Paul mentions the crown of righteousness. There's another crown Paul mentions. Don't go there for time. 1 Thessalonians 2. He mentions the crown of rejoicing. Yes, sir. The crown of righteousness is the looker's crown. The crown of rejoicing is the soul winner's crown. You only get that crown by leading people to Jesus Christ. Paul actually says about that crown that those we've led to Christ, they are our joy. You want to get some joy in your life? Get over yourself. Get over yourself. You know, one of my great burdens, preacher, during coronavirus is I didn't know that hell went out of business. If I understand my Bible right, Brother Gray, hell's still enlarging itself. Right. And yet there are whole swaths of Christians tonight that have absolutely gone out of business during this coronavirus. Yep. Petrified. Yeah. Well, when it's over, we're going to get back to, what if it never is over? Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get political and conspiratorial tonight. Only God knows what this is really all about.
Yeah.
I'll just leave that alone tonight. There's a third crown. That crown's mentioned in James chapter 1. It's the crown of life. That crown is called the endurer's crown. That crown is won by those who just hang in there through thick and thin. It don't matter how dark the valley, doesn't matter how hot the fire, doesn't matter how long the burden. They just say, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to hang in there. I'm going to stay true. They get that crown by enduring.
Amen.
1 Corinthians 9 mentions the fourth crown. That's the incorruptible crown. That's an interesting crown. That's called the laborer's crown. Now, I'm not even going to deal with the fifth crown because that crown in 1 Peter 5 can only be won by preachers. That's the shepherd's crown. So for a non-preacher, there's four crowns. The laborer's crown, the looker's crown, the soul winner's crown, and the endurer's crown. Now, I don't want to get on a rabbit trail. I'll be there too long if I do tonight. But let me suffice it to say, I believe in a pre-tribulation rapture of the church.
Yeah.
There's a lot of debate today about whether or not it's a mid-trib or a post-trib. I believe it's a pre-trib rapture. I could argue with you tonight. I could show you a bunch of verses, and you could try to show me something. Ain't going to do you no good. I've made up my mind. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to be surprised, or I'm going to be surprised. One way or another, we're getting out of here.
That's right.
But here's one of the reasons I believe in a pre-tribulation rapture. You can't fit eschatology together if you don't have a pre-tribulation.